Welcome back to Season 4 of
A Couple of Multiples.
The Reality of Dissociative Identity Disorder. Did you know that according to a recent Harvard study, 93% of people living with DID are initially misdiagnosed by mental health professionals? That's a staggering statistic, and it's exactly why we're here.
This season, we're diving deep into clinical interventions. What actually helps when it comes to recognizing and treating dissociative disorders? Whether you're a mental health provider, a supporter, or someone navigating life with multiplicity, this season is for you.
Thank you for being here. Please share this episode with a friend, your therapist, psychiatrist, or colleague. Together, we can help improve access to accurate diagnoses and effective, compassionate care.
And most importantly, remember that every system is different. What works for one may not work for another, and that's okay. Your journey is valid, your healing is real, and we're so glad you're hanging out with
A Couple of Multiples. This episode is brought to you by Donna Earle, a licensed professional counselor and certified clinical trauma professional.
She's the founder of To Life Counseling in Southlake, Texas, where she helps individuals ages 17 and up heal trauma, navigate identity, and reclaim inner peace. Her trauma-informed approach includes EMDR, parts work, strengths-based therapy, TBRI, and CBT.
She's passionate about honoring the resilience of the human spirit, one story at a time. Today's episode is brought to you by
Healing Selves Therapeutics, PLLC, a mental health practice located in North Carolina, specializing in the treatment of dissociative disorders and trauma. Healing Selves is committed to serving the plural population through the utilization of EMDR, clinical hypnosis, expressive arts therapy, and other evidence-based practices.
Healing Selves was established in 2019 and currently serves North Carolina and Florida. We are committed to extending accessibility and currently accept most commercial insurances, Medicaid, and Medicare.
Welcome, dear friends, to another fabulous episode with your hosts, Drew
And Garden System,
A Couple of Multiples.
The Reality of Dissociative Identity Disorder. We are super excited to have some conversations with each other today.
Woohoo. This season has been so incredible with all of our amazing guests talking about the clinical side of dissociative identity disorder. We have shared much in the way of our own journey, sharing the journeys and experiences of others, and looking at the clinical side of treating dissociative identity disorder. For today, we really want to spend some time getting into some deeper and more challenging aspects of living with DID.
So one of the biggest struggles we have faced with support from our singlet supporters, meaning other people that do not have DID, who are not a multiple, is an expectation for healing and getting better within a certain time frame. There's always such shock when hearing about the number of years I spent in therapy or how many times we've had to go inpatient. Living with DID is extremely difficult. So we want to have a conversation around some of the best ways to offer support for someone living with dissociative identity disorder and just really get into some of the deeper things here.
Yeah, this episode is going to be about supporters and supporting someone with DID. We thought that was something that we haven't done an episode on, so here we are. I'd also like to add that all of you lovely people can actually watch us on YouTube. Maybe some of you didn't realize that we've added video on YouTube this season. So you could watch this episode and this entire season on YouTube. So if you want to switch over there right now, if you're not on YouTube, go ahead and you could see our faces.
Yep, we're at a couple of multiples.
Yeah. So, Garden System, what has been the most challenging aspect of living with DID?
I would say making friends, finding community, um, and really managing all of those relationships. Um, it can just be super challenging to find people who have the space to hold a lot of the deeper, darker things that we go through. And not everybody is, you know a lot of people really kind of struggle, holding space for some of the darker sides of having DID. And I think it can be a little bit scary to other people, especially when they witness a switch for the first time and they may not really understand like how to react, what to do, what to say. It might kind of frighten them a little bit. I think it's also hard because a lot of times, especially when you're at the beginning of trauma treatment, there's a lot of suicidal ideation and self harm that kind of goes along with some of those after effects of trauma, the PTSD, the complex PTSD symptoms. And I think that's also very terrifying for people. And so I think a lot of times people tend to want to pull away or not really engage because they don't know what to do. They're not trained. Handling crises is something that therapists go through training for. And most people don't really know what to do or say, even when they're like really, well meaning and well intentioned. And I think that's really hard, when you have been through a lot of trauma and kind of shut down a lot of your emotions. Like when you try to shut down the negative emotions, you automatically shut down the good ones as well. You can't pick and choose which emotions to feel. You either feel them all or you don't feel any of them. So like if you can't feel your good emotions, then like you can't feel the love and care that other people genuinely do have for you. And it's hard. And when you have gone through a lot of abandonment issues, like it's really easy to have that lens that this person is rejecting me, abandoning me, they don't have time for me. um, and that can really put you in a low and dark place because it's kind of like we don't really know who's a friend and who's not a friend. And when you have gone through a lot of trauma and you have DID, and also when you have some other neurodivergent issues, like the idea of superficial small talk or like certain levels that some friendships are at, just they don't seem real. We have a tendency to want to always be able to go deep and talk about deeper things, and not everybody wants to be deep. Some people enjoy talking about the weather and some minor things, and that just makes them happy. And but that doesn't really resonate with a lot of folks, I think, with trauma and DID. So I think that makes it very difficult to manage, because sometimes we end up oversharing, and that kind of scares people away sometimes.
Right. You bring up some really good points there. I think people knowing that you've been through trauma, and then even if they ask, what happened, and you share anything about trauma could be traumatizing. Just talking about it and listening to it and knowing that a person that you hang around with or love has been through some really difficult things is difficult. So yeah. And the community bit, I think one of the hardest things about having DID is feeling alone.
Yeah.
um, Before I figured out where my DID peeps are at, with the Healing Together conference and online places, which were relatively few, and not specifically DID, which is why we created what we created with Hearts Multiplied, our online DID community. It's what we wished we would have had when we were first diagnosed.
Hmm.
Having places where you can meet other people with DID that are systems is just everything. You feel like you could be yourselves, which is really important because people with DID go around living so they have to fake, kind of being a singleton when we're not.
Masking.
Masking,
Hmm.
exactly. And that's a really hard way to live. It feels like
Hmm.
it almost feels like you're holding everything in, and it kind of hurts. Honestly, it hurts emotionally. it can hurt physically with the headaches or whatnot, trying to just maintain a certain self or selves. So that's a really difficult part about having DID.
Yeah, like the whole idea of masking, like, and sometimes, like, because outside people and develop relationships with each individual one of us, like they have different relationships, and it's easy to quote develop a favorite person in somebody's system and kind of like that one more sometimes, or other ones might feel like they're really difficult or challenging to talk to, and so there can create a lot of even internal rejection and abandonment. Oh, they only want so and so out, nobody likes me.
You
It
could end
can
up feeling
happen.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up that's really hard about DID is being in a romantic relationship with intimacy. And that has been an ongoing challenge for my system for sure. Because when you've gone through sexual abuse, neglect, any of those things that causes DID, um, it makes being in a romantic relationship and intimacy very challenging and difficult. So that's definitely an aspect that's really challenging about having DID.
Yeah, because I think multiple kind of reactions happen from that kind of abuse. You have selves that don't want to be touched at all and want to avoid intimacy. And then you have others that, like, it's almost like an addiction to do that. So that
Right.
can be very confusing for a partner too.
Exactly. And then
Hmm.
you have Garden System and I who are together that both have DID systems, and that makes it super fun.
Absolutely. Extra layers to the challenges.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, what are some aspects of living with DID that don't typically get shared across social media?
Right. So I'm thinking about social media accounts and different people that are on social media that have DID. I think some things that are missing often from social media is all the normal things we do. Quote, normal. Like we're just people doing people things, you know? Switches aren't always that obvious. And I know sometimes people will show switching or whatnot on social media accounts, and it's not that that's not real. It's just that more often than not, with many systems, it's so you can't really tell.
Yeah. I mean, I think on social media, right? Like you're able to be more overt, you're able to really showcase the differences between your different selves and show off
Mm-hmm.
those personalities. It's a little bit of like identity work. Like this is all about so and so and this one's all about this so and so and but like in everyday life, that's not really what happens. Like we're not changing outfits every hour. We usually wear the same clothes throughout the day. And but that doesn't mean that we're not switching, and like somebody may come out and be like, oh, who chose this outfit? But like we're at work. We can't go home and change, we just deal with it.
Right.
Hmm.
I think another thing on social media is not really discussing troubles with being out when you have DID. Because when you're on social media and you're talking about your DID, you are being out, right? So maybe something that's being skipped is talking about the challenges of being out with DID. We're going to hit one of those scenarios really big time in our season finale. So that's this coming episode. A possible
In 2 weeks, people.
and yes, in 2 weeks, we're going to air something that happened to us personally because we are out with our DID. So stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's definitely a challenge about what it's like to be out.
mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, I think some other things that don't typically get shared are the darker sides, because there's some really deep, dark stuff that goes along with having DID. It's not all about, oh, I have this person and oh, I have this person, right? Like there's so much more to it than quote the switching or having different people in your head. Most people with dissociative identity disorder have a lot of depression, anxiety, they have a lot of like attention difficulties. There's heavy suicidal ideation and self harm that goes on. And those are like the heavier, darker things that typically get censored and are not talked about as much. And the
Yeah,
struggles that
panic
we
attacks.
face being able to function. being able to just execute the daily activities of living,
Mhm.
and that how some of those things can be triggers to previous traumas. Even just taking a shower or brushing your teeth can create panic attacks and a lot of problems. And people don't typically share those types of stuff. Eating is another thing I don't think that gets shared about too much. The amount of disordered eating that goes along.
So true. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think social media is like this flashy place to be positive and like show some things off, and but most people are, I think, scared to share the true struggles.
Right.
There are a few accounts out there like do you like to dive into like the reality
That's
and
true.
the darker side, because there really is like this heaviness
Mhm.
having DID sometimes. And I think we just really want to validate that for a lot of our listeners, that if your DID does not feel like a superpower, you are not alone. Like, it is tough. Like, it is a
Right.
challenge.
And also on the flip side of this, there's a lot of hope too.
There is.
I know Garden System and I have been doing therapy for a hot minute, and it really does help.
Yeah.
And it really does help finding a community. So lives improve, skills are built, and being able to function does come over time. And so we do want to say that living your dreams and doing what you want in life, you can do it
Mhm.
and have DID. So yeah.
It's possible, it's a lot of work and it's worth it. I think another thing that people don't really talk about a lot is how difficult it is to access therapy and help.
Oh, true.
Let alone like the insurance barrier and the cost barrier. It's finding somebody who is open and willing to working with somebody that has DID. A lot of
Or
people
that
don't.
knows anything about it.
Right, like they don't feel adequately trained. They think they need more specialized skills, and yes, you do need some specialized skills for sure. I do want to validate the amount of training it does take to work with trauma. And also there's not that many people who are willing to step into the intense work that this is, because working with DID is a lot more effort than your average person going to therapy, I believe. And pay is the same no matter how difficult the client might be,
True
and
story.
I hate to like use that word difficult. I can call myself difficult, and I was a difficult client. A lot of challenges there. So yeah, it does take that extra skill, and I think that's just really hard to find.
Yep.
So we really need more therapists who are willing to step into this arena, because there's such a need.
Yeah, correct. Trauma informed therapists.
Dissociation informed.
You all are wonderful, and you could be one too.
Yes.
All right. So sometimes well meaning people make some disturbing comments, such as wishing they had DID. What would you say to them, Garden System?
This is a big one, because a lot of times people only see that positive side sometimes on social media. Oh, it would be so cool if I had somebody who could come out and just do the cleaning for me. Oh, it would be so cool if I had someone who could do my workout for me. Yes and no. Yes and no. Like having DID means so many things that just don't get mentioned. It means having trauma. It means having trauma from a very, very young age. It means enduring some really horrific experiences that leave you with flashbacks, triggers, nightmares. You don't sleep very well. Um, the flashbacks can paralyze you, put you in freeze, and you lose time and you don't have a coherent, cohesive memory of what has happened. I can't say how many times people ask, well, how was your day or how was your week? And my answer is, I have absolutely no idea. I don't remember it.
That's not fun.
Yeah. What about you? What would you tell these people?
Yeah, I mean, the things that cause DID, no one wishes for that. Um, you know, I know no one's childhood is perfect. There's no such thing. Um, and the things that cause DID are just horrid, It's nothing good. And yeah, it can, I guess, from a singlet's point of view, seem nice, like Garden System said, to have a specific self be able to take on tasks and not have to remember, or someone doesn't mind it as much or whatnot. But we can't always access the right quote person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're left feeling really stuck, and it's not fun.
Yeah, and the amount of friends we have lost over having DID,
Yep.
because somebody will come out and say something in a protective way that really hurts that person, and then they don't talk to you, and like the ability to try to repair like is very difficult,
Yeah.
um
Especially when you don't remember something that
yeah,
happened, or remember something you've said. You don't know when you're losing time because you don't know you're losing time. So, I mean, it makes it really difficult because it feels like
yeah,
nothing happened if someone
yeah.
says that something happened, but you don't remember
I mean,
it.
when you've been dissociating your whole life, like it doesn't seem weird to you. Like I think of like, when I needed to get glasses, like I didn't know how bad my vision was till I put my glasses on. And you don't really realize how much time you're losing or what your sense of time is till it kind of really gets pointed out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, whoa, like I'm supposed to remember more than this.
Yeah. Or if you have selves that come out of dormancy and feel like they've missed 10 years,
Yeah.
and the body's 10 years older and they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they've missed their life. That's not fun either.
Yeah.
Um,
So when you say to somebody, "Oh, I wish I had DID," like what we're really hearing is, "I wish I was traumatized as an infant and toddler." And we're like, "No, you don't. We do not wish that."
no. And I mean, they're probably not meaning that, but they
No.
don't understand,
Right.
what that really means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I wanted to say it. Like, so
Yeah.
this is what crosses our mind when we hear you say that, because we wouldn't wish this on anybody.
Right.
I mean, we wouldn't get rid of all of ourselves at this point, but we also wouldn't wish this on anybody.
No.
Yeah. So how did people react upon your disclosure of having DID?
Well, my experience as people, I think, try not to look surprised. Um, but sometimes you learn later that they talk behind your back, or maybe they start distancing themselves after you've disclosed. Um, so yeah, that's been my typical reaction from people. Although I have learned, and we'll get into this later, that waiting is best until someone gets to know you and who you are and how you operate before you tell them. That's my typical thing now. If I decide to disclose to someone, but I'll get into that more later in this interview. But I mean, what is how have people reacted when you've disclosed Garden System?
Oh, yeah. I think people just start treating us differently. They're looking at us differently. I think a lot of people have also felt the need to kind of almost become like a caretaker. It's almost like they think we can't like take care of ourselves, especially if they recognize when a little is out and they want to like try to do things for us or like overly check on us. Oh, you shouldn't be driving. They'll tell the little, like, dude, our 2-year-old is the best driver of everyone in this system. Like, let her drive,
They've
people.
been two for a long time.
Yeah.
It's different.
Exactly. And so I think, if people don't necessarily run away, they take the opposite role, and that's not really healthy either. We have already survived and been independent and taken care of ourselves. Like, even our littles know how to do things that the bigs do. And you don't want to create a relationship where the person with DID feels overly dependent on anybody else. It's important to help maintain autonomy and independence, because anything else is going to mirror trauma and mirror like all the rules the abusers had for us. Like, we don't need somebody to tell us what to do. That just re-traumatizes us. So really having more respect and not taking on that caretaker role, I think is important. Like, trust the system. It knows what it needs to do.
Correct. Yeah. I love all that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hi, dear friends.
We hope you're enjoying the episode so far. We'd love to invite you to join Hearts Multiplied, our private online community for people living with a dissociative disorder, along with separate spaces for clinicians and supporters.
Inside Hearts Multiplied, we host live events just for you, including social hangouts, little story time, teen D&D campaigns, online gaming like Minecraft and Mario Kart, and vibrant message boards on topics like intimacy and OEA.
We also offer a supporters group and a clinical consultation group for therapists working with dissociative clients.
And we Garden System facilitate 8-week peer coaching groups where we work on internal communication and personalized healing goals.
To learn more and sign up, visit acoupleofmultiples.com. We'd love to have you. So, how has having DID affected your relationships with friends, coworkers, and family members? We've kind of touched on this, but let's do it.
I think for friends, it has been very difficult. People don't know what to do when we switch. And I think it causes them to withdraw and not interact or to feel on edge. And then we just feel hurt and unwanted when that happens. And I think, that we struggle to have meaningful relationships because we don't really trust a lot of people. So, having DID, like there's always a lot of trust issues after you've been through trauma. So it's very difficult to build trust. And that makes it very challenging to develop friendships and to be able to share with other people in any capacity. When it comes to, I'm going to go to family members next. So like family members, like we don't really share a lot with our family. We did disclose our diagnosis and like that came with the caveat of do not question it. If you have nothing nice to say about it, say nothing at all, basically, and basically all we got was you don't really have this. And then like nobody really talks about it. So it just becomes like this masking thing where we just have to pretend to be, quote, the daughter and sister that they've always known, or who they think they know. And so we just feel like disconnected. I think disconnection is what happens a lot. And then with coworkers, so the only coworkers that knew we had DID are when we became a therapist, and we kind of very intentionally chose carefully where we were going to do our internship and where we decided to work to create the best environment we could for being out, because we were out, the podcast was already going. We wanted to make sure that people would respect us. So it's gone well with our coworkers. Most of our coworkers like do come to us and ask us lots of questions about dissociation, if they think their clients are dissociating or if they think their clients might have DID, like they do know to come to me. I do have a lot of, I feel like I have a lot of respect for my coworkers currently. I don't think that would have been true if I was out, like when I used to work as a financial advisor, or even when I used to work as a teacher. I don't think that, I didn't know I had DID when I was a teacher, so I have no idea how that went. I did share with one colleague when I was a financial advisor, and they seemed to handle it pretty well, decently, but like I didn't have a lot of interactions with them. I kind of went to them looking for some advice and help to have a better schedule, and they were very helpful with what I asked for. So but I think, it can be very challenging just sharing with anybody. I think it creates a lot of rifts. People do treat you differently when they know.
It's true. I've had a few negative, experiences with telling, friends, singlet friends. Of course, my friends that have DID, like that's not really an issue. But my friends that don't have DID, I think for me, it's really been a lot about timing and also figuring out too, and giving it some time, if they're really going to be someone I want to share this with. How are they with other things? How are they with gossip? How are they with supporting other people in their life? What kind of person are they? And kind of making a more informed decision before deciding to tell a friend. You don't have to tell everyone, and you don't have to not tell anybody. I've had some positive experiences with telling some co-teachers and some friends. But I did wait. I waited a while. I waited like a year or two before I said anything, and that was a better, more positive experience. And those co-teachers I'm still friends with today, and luckily I have had some experiences where it didn't feel like they treated me differently. In fact, it felt like it just kind of added to our relationship. So you can have positive experiences. It's just really good to feel it out, in my opinion. Family members, I have not specifically disclosed to my family, mostly because like some of what happened to me was with them, so I haven't disclosed to them. So it's just kind of, they probably have found the podcast, but it's not talked about. They haven't brought it up, so that's that. You can basically decide who you want to tell, and it's okay, whatever you choose.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably important to consider, the possibilities of what could happen and would you be okay with that or not okay with that. We kind of got to a point in our life that if people weren't okay with it, then they really didn't deserve to be part of our life.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I have, one cousin that I did talk to, and she also has DID. She came out to me first, and I was like, "Oh, hang on," So that might happen too, shared family traumas.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, what are some important boundaries to have with friends, family, and support people?
Just kind of like what I said, really getting to know people before disclosing and letting them get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like if they figure out that you're an awesome person before you disclose, it's more likely that they'll continue to think you're an awesome person. Whereas if they don't hardly know you, they're going to be more judgmental, especially with something that they probably don't understand a lot about. Um, and that's one thing you could look for too, is that do they have some knowledge of mental health issues? That might be helpful too. Or maybe you can bring up the subject of mental health and see how that goes beforehand. So yeah, boundaries. Yeah, I mean, you can basically say what you'd like to see, or please don't ask me about X, Y, or Z. You can say, I really would appreciate if you did this.
Mm-hmm.
So you could actually verbalize what what is helpful and what is not helpful,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of teach them, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important. Like usually, you talk about having boundaries with people. Like it feels like the other way around. Like what boundaries do supporters need to have with people that have DID? But like this works the other way. Like we also have boundaries that we need to enforce. With support people as well. And like some of those boundaries for us include things like, don't ask for any particular person. Whoever's out is out and deal with it kind of thing. We also have boundaries, around, don't tell us what to do. Don't tell our littles what to do. Like we have people inside who take care of the littles and it's their job, and don't step on those people's toes, because the protectors get very upset when other people try to do their job by trying to take care of the littles. So we have a strong boundary around we don't need anybody to take care of the littles for us, like it's okay like to comfort them or talk to them, like we're okay, but you can also decide if you don't want certain people talking to your littles, like you can decide those things. And that's okay. I think it's okay to kind of have some rules around people not becoming caretakers, and that's, I think, something that's important, because I think it's important to maintain your own autonomy and your own independence. Just because we have this condition, because just because we've suffered trauma doesn't mean that we're not capable of taking care of ourselves. There may be times where we're in crisis where we might need extra help and support, and that's okay. But like, let us ask for that help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what's one supporter success story you can share, Garden System?
Ooh, good question. I mean, we do have some people in our lives that have been very good supporters. Sometimes they took a little too much of a caretaker role on, um, but there were times where if we asked for help, like they would be there and show up. And that's not always possible to come every time you need help. But it's, um, something that helps is like because like we do our best to not ask for help. So like if we are asking for help, like we are definitely in dire need of help. We probably needed help long before we actually asked for it. I think that's also important to remember is that because of the hyper independence, that trauma responsive, we have to do everything by ourselves. Like if we're asking for help, like we're in a deep place, and we definitely need it. I had someone that like when I was suicidal, like if I told them I need you to come over, like they would come over whenever they were able to. They actually flew with us all the way out to Texas for us to go inpatient. And then when we got released, they flew out to ride on the airplane back home with us. And that was really amazing to have that kind of support at that time. So I guess that would be my supporter success story. Yeah. What
That's
about you?
awesome. I'm going to bring up my old co-teachers again. I had a couple of co-teachers at my old work that were just amazing. I waited a bit to tell them, about the DID, but they didn't treat me any differently. We're still good friends today, and I really appreciate, how supportive they were and what lovely friends they are. So I'm going to say that again.
Mhm.
So yeah, it does happen.
Mhm. What about the other side? So, what's one supporter catastrophe you can share?
So like I said, at a previous school, like when I was in my 20s, I told a co-teacher quite early on. And it seemed like she took it okay, but then I heard that she had talked behind my back and other co-teachers suddenly knew. And another co-teacher said she was laughing at the whole situation. So that was really hurtful.
That is
Um,
awful. Like, this is not a joke, people.
no, not at all. We're not a side circus show because that's what it felt like sometimes. Um, I've had some people at my work like say things like, you need to leave all of your baggage at the door. Like, yes. And
I can't leave myself at the door.
when I'm having a flashback, in the middle of work, it's hard to, have, even if I did the very best to drop it at the door, like sometimes that happens for someone with DID,
Yeah.
so
Especially before you've finished all your trauma treatment, like flashbacks.
that was in my 20s when I was just starting, I was just trying to be stabilized, at that point. We weren't even reprocessing trauma. So, I mean, some comments like that where it's obviously they don't get it. It can be a little bit hurtful. Like, you don't think I'm like trying to not think about this. I'm really trying not to think about this. Okay. I really do want to work and I really want to be successful. I'm showing up and I'm trying to do all the things.
We don't want flashbacks. Like, we're doing everything we
No.
can to make those stop.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And like old relationships too, who people that were, I was in a relationship with and they were my supporter, really my biggest supporter, and they would only want certain selves out because they liked them the best. That was really hurtful.
Yeah.
So yeah, Garden System has brought this up. When you only want certain selves out, it's hurtful to the other selves.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for us, like this one was actually before we even knew we had DID. We had some very well-meaning, and I'm going to put this in quotes, friends who really wanted to be helpful to the struggles we were having at the time. And they took on more than they really were capable of taking on. They tried to, quote, counsel us, and they were not a therapist. And I think this was really important. If you don't have the training to be a mental health counselor, like, please don't counsel people. You can do a lot more damage. I know, like, a lot of it's well-meaning, and this can happen a lot in programs like 12 steps and other, like, life coaches and things, which a lot of those people are great mentors and people to have, but when you realize this person has trauma, like, please refer them to a licensed trauma therapist. That is the absolute best thing that you can do. Don't take on more than you have the skill to handle, because all that's going to happen is you're going to end up pulling away because you can't handle it, and that person's going to be abandoned, and you're going to re-traumatize them all over again.
Correct.
I mean, if you show up in this capacity with somebody that has DID and try to make promises like, "Oh, I'll never leave you," please don't say that. Okay. Is you may not know how difficult some things are, and it may be beyond what you have the ability to hold space for. And if you feel like you need to go no contact because you feel like your boundaries are always being violated, like, it's just going to cause further hurt and trauma to the person with DID. Just be honest about what you actually are capable of. And you might mean it when you say it, but just please don't make promises that you cannot keep.
Important stuff.
Yeah. So with these catastrophe stories here, what do you think should have been handled differently?
So I think my own judgment, honestly, I hadn't learned, in my 20s when I shared with my co-teacher so quickly that, I didn't really feel out my co-teacher that well. I just wanted to be understood because I was having a lot of issues at the time and I wanted a friend. I needed a friend. So yeah, my judgment needed to grow there. So that's kind of on me. But I feel like, yeah, judgment. Yeah. And sometimes, things just don't go well, even if you try to feel something out. Someone doesn't take something the way you wish they would have.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I wish I would have just gone to a trauma therapist, go get professional help, somebody who's trained to handle the crises that we go through. And I think another thing too is, like, if you are trusted with somebody's diagnosis of DID, like, keep that confidential.
Super important.
It is not your story to share, even if you think it's best, even if you think it's okay, even if you think these people that you tell will be accepting. Don't share. Let the person with DID tell their story in the way that they feel is best. It's
Yeah.
not safe to be out sometimes, and I don't think people understand how dangerous it can be for people to know you have DID.
And just let the person that's gone through so much trauma be able to disclose, themselves. That could be really empowering, done in their time, in the right timing. So give them that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so when has support become detrimental to your healing process?
I think good support has never been detrimental to my healing process.
But bad support?
Always detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just in the scenarios I've already shared, that was detrimental when people either wanted certain selves out, or when they were gossiping about me or laughing about it, or just kind of watching my every move to see what I would do next.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that DID often becomes a joke in a lot of places. Even in, like, therapy training places, like, people will crack some jokes about it, and that can be really hurtful. Like, we should not, as professionals, ever be making fun of any diagnosis in our trainings. Even if we're just trying to keep it light, like, it's very, very unprofessional to be making fun of the very people we're supposed to be entrusted to take care of. I think the most detrimental thing for us is when people took on too much responsibility and became caretakers, and tried not, and, like, we're not letting us have independence in some ways, trying to do everything for us. Like our job, in supporting people with CID is to strengthen and empower, and help them get their power back, not to take over as somebody that tells them what to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what was helpful for a supporter to do or say?
Good question. I'm thinking. um, I think probably the most helpful thing is when people got curious and asked questions in a curious way, when people wanted to learn more about DID and like would do their own research and
Right.
understanding
Instead
what
of
we were
pushing
going
away,
through.
right?
Yeah, and basically like still treating me like the person they always knew and still inviting us out, to the social gatherings and not acting like we're weird now.
Yeah. Just asking, quote, normal questions. How are you doing?
Yeah.
It goes a long way. And
Mm-hmm.
just including the person after
Mm-hmm.
they've disclosed to you
Mm-hmm.
and loving on them, showing support, showing
Mm-hmm.
that you're there and you hold this information about them.
Yeah. I mean, that means that that person really trusts you.
Yeah. And if the person has revealed different selves to you, ask about them. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Include the selves that they've shown to you. Um, I think supporters that have done that for me that know some of my selves and ask, how are they doing? That's amazing. That makes us feel less alone.
Yes.
And asking what specific selves like or dislike or want to do and making plans for those type of things to happen. Yeah, basically not pushing away, but gently and kindly, you know including
Being inclusive.
being
We're kind of
inclusive.
like getting into the next question here. So let's go ahead
Yes.
and say that. Like, what advice would you give to supporters of those living with DID?
All right, so I don't think there's a magical thing to do or say, but just please believe us. Everything that we tell you, please believe us.
Mm-hmm.
And just love us, all of us.
Yeah. I think there's power in just simply being present with somebody. You don't have to like they are still the same persons that you knew before you knew the diagnosis. Like you don't need to treat them any differently other than maybe being inquisitive and curious.
Right.
And asking like what is helpful for them to know,
Mm-hmm.
finding out which cells already know them and maybe which cells don't know them, and like being able to kind of like just go with the flow and roll with it no matter what kind of comes up. um don't don't act afraid when we switch in front of you.
Right.
You just be like, oh hi, how are you? Like just like be welcoming no matter what.
And if you don't know what to do or say, maybe ask. Just
Yeah.
say, what can I do or what can I say right now that would be helpful? Ask whoever's out.
Yeah, or ask them before it happens. Like, how do you want us to respond if there's a switch, and what would be the most appropriate thing to do or say? Because everybody's going to want something different, honestly. And like, depending on who we are, we might actually want different responses depending on who's out.
Absolutely.
So asking questions and really getting to know and understand the system, I think, is important, and also respect. Like, if somebody doesn't want to tell you something, if they're like, I'm not allowed to tell that, like, don't push.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We really appreciate all the supporters out there. Thank you for being there for us.
Yes, thank you for being here and listening. And if you have anything to share about what would be helpful for supporters, if supporters have questions or have comments about being a supporter, please feel free to leave a comment under this episode. You can also email us at admin@a coupleofmultiples.com to share anything you would like to share.
And we have some lovely supporters in our Hearts Multiplied community. So if you'd like to become a part of Hearts Multiplied and talk to other supporters, we would love to have you.
Yes, we host a monthly live
Supporters group.
video meeting for supporters. Yeah, to get supporters need support too, and we definitely need our supporters. There are some amazing people out there, and we know most of you have very good hearts and want to be the best supporters that you can. And I think the other thing I would also say is take care of yourselves as supporters. Go get your own therapist if you need to. And that is always helpful because you're going to need people to lean on as well. Just as much as people with DID like us, that we need people to lean on and therapists to talk to. Like sometimes there's heavy subjects, and you can get vicarious trauma from listening to somebody's trauma. So like if somebody has kind of shared trauma, like you might want to make sure you get that processed.
Right. So take care of you, and thank you for supporting us.
Yes, absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful and enlightening conversation to have.
Yes. And thank you for hanging out with
A couple of multiples. This episode is brought to you by Donna Earle, a licensed professional counselor and certified clinical trauma professional.
She's the founder of To Life Counseling in Southlake, Texas, where she helps individuals ages 17 and up heal trauma, navigate identity, and reclaim inner peace. Her trauma-informed approach includes EMDR, parts work, strengths-based therapy, TBRI, and CBT.
She's passionate about honoring the resilience of the human spirit, one story at a time. Today's episode is brought to you by
Healing Selves Therapeutics, PLLC, a mental health practice located in North Carolina, specializing in the treatment of dissociative disorders and trauma. Healing Selves is committed to serving the plural population through the utilization of EMDR, clinical hypnosis, expressive arts therapy, and other evidence-based practices.
Healing Selves was established in 2019 and currently serves North Carolina and Florida. We are committed to extending accessibility and currently accept most commercial insurances, Medicaid, and Medicare. Thank you, dear friends, for spending time with us today.
We're so grateful for each of you and all the important work you're doing. Whether it's supporting others or navigating your own healing journey, we hope this episode brought insight, encouragement, and something new to consider.
If it did, we'd love for you to share it with a friend, your therapist, psychiatrist, or colleagues. It's one more step toward changing how the world understands DID.
And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for therapy. Listening does not create a therapeutic relationship with the hosts or any guest speakers.
Until next time, take gentle care and thank you for hanging out with
A couple of multiples.